was taken up at around, so they say you can't have memory before 2 years old. I have a memory of when I was 3 months old. And I was in my old house in Milano, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, in the middle of the floor of my room. I was 3 months old, so my cot had like the bars on it. There was no way that I could have crawled out of it and ended up in the middle of the room. And I remember the feeling of the wet nappy around my legs because I was around, like my lower part of the body because I had peed myself because I was 3 months old. And I remember, and I couldn't really move. All I could do was like move my head a little bit. And I remember looking up and I remember seeing the big metal blinds and feeling very scared, and not understanding, then turning and seeing my cot, not understanding how I ended up in the middle of the room. And then I have another flash that I remember the next morning, and I remember turning my head a little bit and my mom on the left side, and my mom opening the door, and she was wearing white and she was holding like a baby food or something. And there was this bright light coming from her. And I remember like feeling like she's like, how did you, this is really random. How did you get in the middle? Like it would not have been possible. How did you get in the middle of the room? And so I've had this memory my whole life. And then when I was in my mid 20s, I had a vision. I was in very deep meditation and I had a vision of this boy who was about maybe 8 years old. And he came into my third eye and into my face, and his skin was like a gray color. He had black hair, he had bigger eyes, not like dark, not completely dark, but like dark brown eyes. And he communicated with me telepathically, and I could feel in my heart, and he was like, I'm your child, I come from your genetic material.
Welcome to Strange and Mysterious World Season 4, Episode 6. We have Althea back again. Very, very honored to have her back. She is our light talker. She delves a lot with different divinations and mysteries. She delves in tarot as well. But hopefully tonight we're going to be chatting about, well, another interesting topic that I love talking about, and that's astral worlds. So, yeah, I can't wait to talk about that, man. That's going to be very exciting. So, obviously, if you wanted to listen to some light language and some awesome clearing that's going to last you for the next 3 weeks. It's going to get rid of that negative energies. Listen to the podcast right at the end. We've got, I think it's around about the last 5 minutes. We're going to have some light language from Althea. So yeah, listen in, guys. It'll be fantastic. Yeah, let's bring on Will.
Okay, yes, she is. Hey, Althea.
Althea, how is it? How are you?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Ready for a lift off.
How are you guys? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, man.
So Althea, obviously after our last discussion, when we were on our last podcast, you mentioned something that I'm like really, really close to and interested in, like probably more than anything else besides astral projection, is the astral realm or the astral world. You said you were going to kind of get into that, and if you could, maybe from your side,
the different dimensions.
The different dimensions, which is kind of the same thing. But if you can explain.
Yeah, do you want to know about the astral space or the dimensions?
Well, let's talk about both. If you.
Okay. Yeah. Sure, of course. So I'll just explain the dimensional densities going from like 1 to 5, because that will help understanding how the astral space works as well.
Okay.
So when you start from like the first dimensional density, you'll have like something just is. It is, and it just is. It just exists. Okay, so that's the dimensional density one. And then what happens is the dimensional densities overlap. So something just is, and then with the second dimension it is, and now it has consciousness of being. Okay, so it's aware of itself. In your third dimensional density, something exists, it is, it has consciousness of being, but it can now take action. Okay. However, it's still limited by the constraints of time and space. So this is where we are now. Okay. Even though we're moving, into a more fluid time-space continuum right now, like we're still limited. We need to walk to places, like time is kind of linear. In your fourth dimensional density, which would be your astral place where you go when you dream, so the astral space, something is, it has consciousness of being, it can take action. but it's only limited by space. Time is fluid. If you think about it, in the astral space, you can manifest things instantly. However, you still need to walk, fly, take cars, like you still need to physically move to get to places, okay? In your fifth dimensional density, it's all of, what I've mentioned before, and there's no limitation of time or space. So everything is kind of like more fluid and converging into each other. So we exist in all these dimensional densities and higher ones, but we are mainly anchored within the third dimensional density. However, because they are all overlapping and happening at the same time, we actually are able, through this perfect machine that we have, our body, we are able to access through our body, our system, and our energy field, the 4D and the 5D and the higher vibrational frequency spaces and dimensional densities. So the higher the frequency, the lower the density. I know that can be a little bit confusing. So something in first dimensional density is very dense, like it's very heavy, and as you go up in the dimensional densities, things become lighter because the frequency raises. Now, I don't have a scientific background, but I think if you look at how the frequency works, when it goes higher, it vibrates more and it vibrates faster, and the waves are like closer together than than the slower ones. So your astral space, which would also be your space where you astrally project in, would be your fourth dimensional density. So your 4D is a very ambiguous space. And the reason I say that, it's because it hasn't anchored beyond polarity. So there is still polarity in it. So the good, the bad, the white, the black, and all of that. Meanwhile, in your 5D, everything is more operating from like an unconditional love and neutral space. Your 4D still has quite a lot of polarity in it. So you will have your lower, your middle, and your higher tiers of your 4D. So your lower astral space, so your lower 4D tiers, would be where you are when you dream and have like nightmares, or you're getting attacked, or there's like demonic entities or beings and things like that. Those would reside in your lower tiers of your fourth dimensional density astral space. Your middle would be your more kind of like neutral space, where you're maybe like walking around and seeing people and talking to people in your dream and things like that. And then your higher tiers of your astral space, of your fourth dimensional density, would be where you might start to see like angelic beings, or you start to feel unconditional love, or you see all this white light and the colors and bright things and all of that. And the nice thing of, having a conscious awareness of your astral space is that if you find yourself within a dream space where you are being psychically attacked, or it's a horrible situation, all you need to do to get out of it is literally just raise your baseline vibrational frequency, so you start to vibrate higher and you leave the lower tiers of the astral, and whatever is here can't get up there. And then you kind of like release the experience, the entity, or whatever it is.
Would that be like getting rid of fear? So I know a lot of people, when they start experiencing these type of things, they get very scared. I know, like with William, for example, he, when he starts, and with the stories that I'm hearing, he's telling, it sounds like he's on the verge of doing the astral, the out of body experience, but he gets a lot of fearful, as if there's somebody in the room, or what I mean. There's always that fear that people have, and I think that also drops your astral level down. So in order to get up and past, I'm assuming you're gonna have to get over that fear and realize, look, nothing's gonna hurt me. It's it is as it is, and you move on. So, or how does one actually raise their vibration so that they don't get to that lower levels?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the fear is like a safety self-preservation mechanism that the system has in place. And yes, it is a program. So it can be released. You can train yourself to not be scared. I find that it happens like naturally when you start to navigate these spaces, because there's only so many times it can attack you, and then you kind of like, like fight them off and then be like, okay, well, like I can do this. So like you can't really do anything to me, I'm more powerful. Once you have like the conscious awareness and cognitive understanding that you are an infinite being of light, and you are more powerful than anything that's trying to psychically attack you or take energy from you or anything like that, then you don't have anything to fear, and so by being in that space, and you're able to access these astral spaces from a space of, love, or even just like more neutrality. But I mean, the fear is yeah, it's like a self-defense mechanism. I think a few ways, this is what I teach to my clients, like to let go of fear would be like doing things that make you step outside your comfort zone. So if something scares you a little bit, then you should probably be doing it. Now, you don't have to go and do, like skydiving. But it can be, it's just something that puts you outside what is your standard and normal comfort zone. It can be something as easy as, I don't know, trying like a group class in gym, and you're scared of it and then you try it, sort of thing. And it's just through these small intentional practices that then we are able to clear and release the program of fear within the system.
Okay. And then you were mentioning the astral realm, kind of, or the different dimensions where you've got thought and action and awareness. Are animals able to enter the astral realm? Was it just kind of like a human realm?
So that's also a very good question. Thank you for asking it. So there is another dimensional density that is connected to the evolution of consciousness of the individual soul. So you'll have the density that the being exists in, and then you will have the density level of the soul within the being. So depending on how evolved that soul is, it will decide or choose what it can access. So it depends on the lesson that it's been through. So I'll give you an example, and I use this so people can understand. Like I'm for a plant-based diet. I don't eat animals or anything that has a face, and the reason I actively choose to do that, regardless of the horrific system in place from the consumeristic society and all of that, is because of the evolution of consciousness of the soul. So this is one example, and then I'll branch off and expand from that. But it's obviously not linear, but just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to explain it in a linear way now before I explain it on the multidimensional level. It's kind of like a leaf or a plant's soul consciousness is less evolved than a dog, which is, maybe then less evolved than like a horse, which is less evolved than a human. Okay, so if on a karmic level and on an energetic level, you are eating something whose soul consciousness is more evolved, without a doubt, you will have to take in the karmic contracts and then have to clear them. If you're eating a plant, the plant won't necessarily have as complicated karmic contracts as a horse or a dog or a cat. So this is one kind of aspect of it. And I think they need to evolve over so the ones that can access the astral space is the ones that have evolved beyond the 3D. So it would be your animals that have had lifetimes as beings that have evolved past that, so that were humans before, or were other alien beings or other ET beings. And so their soul has evolved past the threshold of the third dimensional density construct and can access the 40, 5D, 60 and up. So like I had a cat. Well, all my animals have had previous lifetimes, but I had a cat that was very close to me, and she's passed on, and she can actually come through and speak to me quite a lot because her soul is very evolved. She's actually been a human before many times as well. And then she was like, I'm actually over this human stuff. I want to come back as a cat so that my life is more chilled, sort of thing. So some souls experience that and choose to re-experience that. Like I've been a much higher evolved being than this human that I am now, but I chose to come back here to learn more lessons, live the experience, be present. So I don't know if this kind of answers your question.
It actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm telling you now why. Look, I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan now for almost 5 years. But there's a reason for besides the health, but there's something else that almost biblical. There's something in the Bible that mentions something, and I think this is where we went wrong. But what you've said kind of makes a lot of sense, because we are accessing a certain dimension as a human being, thought, the whole package. And if you're consuming something that's of a lower form or lower vibration, you then take in that vibration, and you become more and more and more stuck in your body. So that's fantastic. Thank you. You've explained that well. Now, that made me think: is it not possible? And people might kind of argue with me and say, "No, but this happened later." the original sin of the human being, when they say they ate the apple, it wasn't actually an apple. They consumed a lower density meat, maybe, or consumed blood that dropped the higher densities that we used to be into a lower form. That's kind of where we are now. That was the actual original sin of the Bible. I don't know that, just the thought that that popped into my
I
mind.
guess that could be a possibility. Yeah, I haven't really tuned into any of kind of like the biblical stuff. What I do work with is the energy of the Christ consciousness, which is a six-dimensional kind of like accumulation of souls that have merged back together to make one bigger soul, and then, assist from the space of being more in a way ascended masters or an ascended master energy. But definitely, I mean, I find that with these things, there's never one truth, because of all the timelines. Like, maybe 5 years ago, we were on a timeline where they ate an apple, and now we're on a timeline where they ate a banana, and then next time we're going to be on a timeline where they ate a cow. Do you know what I mean? There's so much that we don't know, even when, we think we know, there's so much that we don't know that, um, a lot of the time people can access, if you imagine like our soul, which separates, from source consciousness, and source consciousness has, the all in all knowing and answers to everything. A lot of people can access that. So a lot of people can actually access parallel previous future lifetimes as the same being. So, let's say Jesus came down, he was an ascended master who came to teach. And now there's out there like thousands of people that say, oh, I was Jesus. I remember the lifetime of Jesus. It's not that necessarily they live it. They're tapping into a memory of the collective consciousness that is anchored within source consciousness. So I find, and again, this is it's all, we could talk about it and see, but it is what it is. When more people are anchored into an individual timeline and they're locked in it, it kind of like becomes the almost like the higher truth, the truth that is more kind of like embodied and present. And but also at the same time, like I can have my individual truth and memory of a fact or something that happened, and someone else can remember it differently and have their own individual truth. And we might be on the same timeline now, but maybe 5 years ago we were on a different timeline. So I find that with these kind of like historical or biblical facts, it's always a very fine line. I think when there's more tangible evidence, then maybe that, like, I don't know, the carvings of the UFO spaceship, or, that's okay. Well, I mean, it's here, so it must be some timeline that was physically in the 3D,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So out there, just with everyone saying that we're moving into the fifth dimension, or there's that whole, I don't know what you call it, philosophy or a thought or movement now. Is that happening, and why is it? Or if it is, why is it happening now, and how is it happening? Like, what's causing it?
Yeah, so I mean, we are evolving. Like it's literally part of the natural evolutionary process of every species and every planet. Like it's like literally textbook ascension process what we're going through. It's like nothing new. We are special because our Earth is kind of like an accumulation of a lot of different galactic DNA that's present within us humans. So it's almost like if we are able to ascend and reach a baseline vibrational frequency that we operate at, which is more anchored in the 5D, then there's no excuse for any other beings to not be able to. So it would kind of like mean that there would be peace coming through the universe. Like it's almost like this is why we're so important at this moment in time, because we are sort of like a culmination of a lot of different years of evolutionary cycles. Why now? Well, I mean, we just happen to be in it now, but this has been a cycle that has happened before, like when we had ancient Atlantis and Lemuria. It was, similar but different. So We have already entered the lower tiers of fourth dimensional positively polarized density with regards to Earth. So we can't stop it. Like we're going to get to, the ascension process. It's happening. I don't think people are necessarily going to be going anywhere within the 5D, but we are just going to start living from a more sovereign and embodied perspective. And this is what's been coming through a lot this year. This sovereignty, this kind of like, I take control of my life. I'm a sovereign being. I navigate, I choose, and we're still going to be existing in the 3D, like the solid reality where we're in now is still going to exist, but our system and our energy fields and our embodiment would be more one of unconditional love and present within the 5D. And then what happens with that is there comes a certain, so this is a big part of the awakening and ascension process that happens on an individual level. There's a certain kind of like opening and expansion of the heart chakra and heart center, and then it will merge back into source consciousness. And then when that happens, like you start operating from a space of unconditional love. So it's really not about the individual, it's about the greater cause. It's service to others and not service to self. So that's kind of like where we're all moving towards.
Okay, you said that we got alien DNA in us, more aliens. That from like the hybrid programs and the Greys stealing eggs and sperm and stuff.
No, this is way, way before that.
Okay.
So, well, there is hybridization programs that are happening. I was taken up on a ship. I don't know if I said this on the last podcast. I can't remember, but I was taken up. Did I say it or no?
No,
No,
I
no,
don't
you
think
didn't.
so. No.
No,
Okay, okay. Yeah, I sometimes I forget because I do so many,
yeah,
but the
no, sure.
stories
We
are
would
always
have
the same.
remembered something like that.
Yeah, so I was taken up at around, so they say you can't have memory before 2 years old. I have a memory of when I was 3 months old. And I was in my old house in Milano, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, in the middle of the floor of my room. I was 3 months old, so my cot had like the bars on it. There was no way that I could have crawled out of it and ended up in the middle of the room. And I remember the feeling of the wet nappy around my legs because I was around, like my lower part of the body because I had peed myself because I was 3 months old. And I remember, and I couldn't really move. All I could do was like move my head a little bit. And I remember looking up and I remember seeing the big metal blinds and feeling very scared, and not understand, then turning and seeing my cot, not understanding how I ended up in the middle of the room. And then I have another flash that I remember the next morning, and I remember turning my head a little bit and my mom on the left side, and my mom opening the door, and she was wearing white and she was holding like a baby food or something. And there was this bright light coming from her. And I remember like feeling like she's like, how did you, this is really random. How did you get in the middle? Like it would not have been possible. How did you get in the middle of the room? And so I've had this memory my whole life. And then when I was in my mid 20s, I had a vision. I was in very deep meditation and I had a vision of this boy who was about maybe 8 years old. And he came into my third eye and into my face, and his skin was like a gray color. He had black hair, he had bigger eyes, not like dark, not completely dark, but like dark brown eyes. And he communicated with me telepathically, and I could feel in my heart, and he was like, I'm your child, I come from your genetic material. And I cried for maybe like 2 hours, like I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And then I kind of like left it to that. And then I think a year or so after I got the download, they were like, no, that's when we took the material from you. We took it back then. But I don't know if they only used it later. Like, I don't know. They said it was a pre-contracted experience that you were supposed to have and you were supposed to live through. And that's why you remember it. I don't remember being brought up on a ship. I don't remember being on the ship, but I just remember this thing of like me being in the middle of the room and like, not, and, as they say, you can't remember before two, but I remember that very vividly. And then when this child came to me, and it was like quite sad, but also like it had closure within itself. Like I know this child is probably still up there. I don't know if they've sent him to Earth. Like I don't know anything, but I'm not supposed to know anything. Like maybe in the future I will know more. I don't know. It was never meant to be. Like I'm a mom, and at the time I wasn't when I had this experience, and maybe that made it kind of like a bit easier to let go, but it's almost like my soul knew there was an acceptance in it, that I knew that this was like, yes, my genetic child, but it wasn't supposed to be in my life. It was quite like a strange feeling, like now being a mom and being like, well, like that's weird because I want my kid around, like it's kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
an
sure.
extension of me. But I think because this was done in such a way, yeah, and to me, again, I don't have any negative feelings associated to that experience. It was actually pretty beautiful. There's obviously like low vibrational frequency beings that are taking genetic material and harvesting without consent. And that's horrible, but I've had experience like that as well. So I can speak about that one too. But this one that I had with this particular being who was an extension and part of me, like nothing within the experience had any fear, any like shame, any regret. I wasn't scared. Like it was actually quite like a beautiful experience.
Oh wow. Geez, thanks for sharing that. That's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and sorry, just
Jeez.
climbing back a little bit to the astral realms. When somebody passes on or dies, what happens? Do they go to that specific four-dimensional astral realm, or do they move now to a different sphere or a different dimension, a different realm when somebody
So
passes
they
on?
can they can choose. They'll choose. They will
Okay.
choose once they leave the body, they will choose what they can do. So sometimes what happens is um so again, it's not linear, it's quite complex. So what happens is like they will have lessons that it will still need to go through, so they will come back on Earth, but they can also choose to have a break and leave for like a while and then lessons somewhere else. Sometimes what happens, and the reason that I say this is because sometimes souls leave, but people can still like talk and connect and access them. What I like to understand it as in they leave almost like a residual, like imprinting behind, because on some other timeline, the soul still is there. So part of the soul can still connect and come through. So even if I leave this body tomorrow and decide to go and incarnate in a body in a Lyra constellation, there will still be a timeline where I'm here, or a residual imprinting of my soul that who is still here can anchor and connect to. So I don't know if that makes sense. But what I've learned most of the time is that the souls will actually be able to choose. And if they struggle, and they confuse, it's because they confused, and then that's when the mediumship work comes in, and the medium will come and help cross over or whatever is needed for them.
Okay.
Yeah, that the astral world. I was reading this one book, and the guy said he kept on going to the astral world because you just mentioned earlier. You said that the fourth dimension is where you like manifest or whatever. So he said he kept on going to the astral world. He would walk around his house, but there'd always be this grand piano in the living room, and he'd always be like wondering, what the heck is this grand piano? And then and it was there for like months. He kept on having it, and then all out of the blue, someone called him like and said, "Yo, your aunt, whatever." I mean, I can't, I'm messing up the story, but it was something like this. It says your aunt just died, and she's got a grand piano, and like, do you want the piano? And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then it came, and he put it. It was exactly he put it exactly where he had seen it all the time. So it was like almost like it was manifesting already in that other space, and then it came into fruition. But he said that he also would see sometimes, it happened a few other times where he would see something and he'd be like, oh, that's interesting, but then it would never manifest. So it almost like it was
Dissipated.
going to, but then something happened in the timeline, and then it didn't manifest. Is that
Yeah,
like a,
that would make sense. Yeah, that would definitely make sense that he would be seeing it, and then it would come true, or maybe he would see it and then he'd just make a decision and the timeline would shift or would change. Yeah, because time is fluid in the astral space, so it's all happening at the same time, basically.
So let me ask you, kind of past, present, and future. Um, you know, people tend to think that we currently living in the future. That we
Sorry,
currently
I'm clearing.
no, it's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm just clearing. I'll be clearing on and off, so just ignore
It's
if
fine.
I'm like
It's
you
fine.
want coffee.
It's fine. The people say we're currently living in the future, but it kind of tends to. It seems to me that there is a future that's already happened, and we kind of catching up to it. Because a lot of people see, and like especially with, and I'm talking a little bit now more about precognition and these kind of things, and now exactly what you were talking about with the piano, where something's already happened and we kind of catching up. But then if that is the case, how is it that we are kind of remembering what's happening now and not remembering what's happening in the future? I don't know, or is that a different timeline and it's a different access to, a different way to access that line? I don't know. It's a little bit difficult to read.
So, yeah, so I'll explain this in lessons because it'll be easier to understand that way. So, we all have a certain number of lessons to navigate and get through. So, let's say I need to get from lesson A to lesson B. Okay. How I get from lesson A to lesson B is my free will, my sovereign choice, but I still need to go to lesson B. And how difficult lesson A and lesson B are is also within my free will and sovereign choice. So I'll give a practical example. I just find it's always easier to use those examples for people to understand. So let's say someone gets into a relationship, okay? They meet someone, oh, like, I love you, amazing, let's get together, okay? And 3 months down the line, they catch this other person, male, female, whatever, and they're like messaging. So let's say it's a man, he's like messaging other woman and like, not necessarily being like cheating, but also cheating, like, and hiding it from the girlfriend. So in that moment, the girlfriend or the person has two choices. The first choice is to leave. Okay, leave, bye, thank you, sorry, not for me. You can do what you want, your choice, whatever, like, not my vibe, like, goodbye. Or he's like, no, babe, I'm sorry, I love you, I really want to be with you. Like, I promise that, I'll change, I'll shift and whatnot. And, and the couple stays together. 2 years down the line, the woman finds this man actually cheating. Okay. That's the same lesson that presented itself through the messages. If she would have listened the first time and walked away, then that was it. The lesson would have been learned, but she didn't. Okay. And that was her free will and sovereign choice. So those are two very different timelines, because if she would have walked away the first time, 2 years down the line, maybe she would have been with someone else, or maybe she would have traveled and gone somewhere else in the world. Who knows, But instead she chose to stay in the union, and then the same lesson came back. Now, I'm not saying that, people don't change. Like, I'm sure there's, like chances where this happens and someone really like changes and whatnot, but just general standard, So that's the same lesson, but it was just a lot harder to learn because she wasn't listening to the universe. She wasn't taking a step back. She wasn't staying grounded. So the universe always wants to support you. The universe wants you to succeed. The universe wants to give you the easiest path. We are naturally born abundant. It's our like natural flow state to be abundant, to be healthy, to be surrounded by love. Like it's our natural state. But we think sometimes that we know best, and we've unlearned how to be connected to our body and to our system and to our energy field, and we're so disconnected that we just follow the mind. But if we learn to take a step back, then we can actually see all these timelines that you mentioned, and we can make the decisions that are for our highest alignment, because that's really all that matters. It's aligning with your highest alignment, with your highest purpose. And once you're able to do that and you anchor into that vibrational frequency and operate from that baseline, then everything else becomes a lot easier. And then you can choose. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, I have 3 different timeline options that I can see. Okay, so which one feels better? Like, maybe you feel in the body, does this one feel good and relaxed, or does my stomach feel constrained? Do I need to go down this direction? So, you start to really navigate following your intuition. So I don't know if this kind of answers your question.
Yeah, no, it is basically, look, there was something I wanted to know about the future. Is it how people are seeing the future? Has the future already happened, in your opinion? And we kind of living in the past?
It has in the 4D and in the 5D, but
yeah, okay,
the timeline hasn't been chosen yet. So the timeline that will actually be effective hasn't necessarily. So, okay, but yes,
that makes sense.
It's all happened. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So it's happened in the higher dimensions, just not in our physical dimension, where we got to choose the route to either get to that or not. And that'll go back to your thing, William, where the guy was seeing the things in his astral realm, and he decided to get the piano, the one line, and he decided not to get the other stuff on the other line. That's why it changed. So I think, okay, that's actually very cool. And then there was another question I wanted to ask you with regards to AI, artificial intelligence. Do you think, because you were mentioning earlier that we kind of we're all shifting up into another dimension of sorts. Do you think AI is an assistance to this? Do you think it's going to help us to get to that? Or do you think it might be a hindrance, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, technology is part of the evolutionary process, whether we like it or not.
Mm.
Like I have people that come to me sometimes and they're like, no, I want to go in the middle of nowhere in the forest away from everyone. Like, it's fine, you can do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to hold the grid to what it is, but you're not contributing to the evolutionary process of the species, which is naturally going to happen. So, what we need to learn and understand is we need to integrate AI in a way that is healthy, in a timeline that is organic. What does this mean? This means that the AI will assist us and work for us and help us, in a positive way in service to others. What happened in ancient Atlantis when the machines took over is that the people started using AI in service to self, for greed, for selfish reasons. And that's when the timeline gets distorted and you go off the organic timeline into an inorganic timeline. And that's when there is the collapse, the pain, the suffering, the division. I think we are here to clear that karma and to clear those timelines and create a new path in this ascension and awakening process where we integrate AI in a way that is healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what about AI? Like, so medically now you've got Neuralink, things that are coming out with Elon Musk, they wanted to implant things into people's heads, and we know the human being. They eventually want to weaponize something. What if if there's something in your head, which is a good thing, maybe it's there to help people see again. People that weren't able to see, they can now see, or they've planted something in the spinal column that enables them to walk. So exactly as you're saying, I think it's a good thing that would help us. But then there's the other side of it, which is the dark side, the dark human side, which wants to weaponize things and all of a sudden hack into you, and there's all weird stuff that they're doing. In your opinion, which route do you think we are going to head on? I know you're saying we should be doing this, and this is how we should be. We should be accessing AI. It should be helping us. We should be working with it. I've got a very bad feeling as if we're going to be heading off into the wrong direction, seeing ourselves. I don't know if you remember Star Trek. There was I
never watched Star Trek. My dad was a fan, but I never watched it.
There's actually an alien race called the Borg. Okay, now the Borg were half human, half machine. They were androids. I've got a feeling we're kind of heading off almost in that direction. And then when it gets to that, everything becomes hive mind. So one person controlled the whole race of beings. And I'm worried that that's kind of almost where we're heading off to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pro implanting stuff in people. I think we need to learn to heal the organic way, because our body is a perfect machine and we can really heal any ailments that we have if we learn how to work with it and if we evolve, in that way. So I haven't really tuned into this. I do think that there is lessons there for everyone, whether it's on an individual or collective level. Like, I don't see a mega apocalyptic tech timeline. Like, I don't see that. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, there might be some kind of like inorganic timeline spin-off that happens in some maybe places or areas, but like, I have like absolute faith in humanity. I think humans are amazing and people are incredible. And I think that what we're seeing now, like unity and people coming together, like we've never seen it so much before. And the vibrational frequency is rising so quickly that people are understanding and seeing through these things. And again, I think that maybe what is being presented as a good thing with like a different agenda. I do believe that a lot of these people that are in the public eye, like Elon Musk and whatnot, they have their own agendas. I don't necessarily believe that they work for the dark agenda. I don't think they do, actually. I don't think he works for the dark agenda, but he definitely has his own agenda, And yeah, I think we are more powerful than what we believe that we are. Like a lot of people still need to step into the sovereignty, but once they do, I don't think people are going to be so easily controlled.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Sir William?
Yeah, it's just going back to that. Sorry, now I'm going way back to going into the fifth
Back to the
dimension.
beginning.
That because you said it was like cyclical, like we go into the fifth dimension now. Is that like because there's also the whole thing about the Kali Yuga ending and we're going into the Treta Yuga or whatever, and like the Atlanteans were probably on like the Sati Yuga, the Golden Age, and then it crashed. And supposed to be a cataclysm at every Yuga cycle. So do you think that's also part of what we're going through now? We're ending the Kali Yuga, and that's why we're going to the fifth dimension, and then we'll eventually go in the fifth dimension, and then we'll go back to the third dimension because it's a cyclical thing.
No,
Or do you think it's
I
just
don't think
up and
we're gonna.
up and
I
up
think
from
we're
now?
gonna. This is the time we're staying and we're moving forward. We're not going back this time.
Okay. Because there's also like all the scientific evidence of we going through a part of the galaxy now that's full of a lot of like dust and it's capturing a lot of the light from the stars and that. So that's what's also making us, well, that's what I'm thinking, that's making us go on a high vibration because there's a lot more light in this area of the galaxy that we're going through now.
Well, we're definitely receiving like solar flashes and things like that. And that's definitely affecting, like the Schumann resonance is constantly spiking. So that's definitely like, I mean, right now we just entered the Lionsgate portal, which peaks on the 8-8. So there's a lot of energies there and like, amplifying manifestation, taking aligned action, releasing layers. But I find that that's like, there's a lot of that happening all the time.
And you don't think like because it seems like there's something big that's going to happen soon. I mean, like with the advancement of AI and like everyone say it's gonna we're all heading to this point. The what
Singularity.
is the singularity? And there's also like now the whole thing about the UFO disclosure that was ramping up, and and also like a lot of psychics and everything have all been saying something big is going to happen, and like of Göbekli Tepe, they suddenly like don't want to excavate any more on that because they say they found something that's is suggesting that the end times are coming, and we don't know what this big thing that's going to happen now is it going to be like the end of the world? Is a cataclysm coming? Is that why old what's his name, Mark Zuckerberg's building a bunker? I mean,
No.
like, what do you think? Is there something like
So
that going to happen?
I'll
What's the
tell
big
you,
thing that's
I'll
going to
tell you
happen?
what's happening. So what's happening is a lot of psychic and energy workers are actually seeing these apocalyptic timelines within the astral space, and they think they're going to be real, but what they're actually doing is they're clearing them. And so they just don't know. They're like, oh my God, there's fire, there's thing, this is going to happen. So then they just say it. But what's actually happening is by them observing it and doing what they're doing within their system and energy field, they're actually clearing it. I clear apocalyptic timelines like month on, month off. Like there's so many of them, you know. I don't think that's necessarily necessary. I think what's going to happen with the disclosure is I think there needs to be a certain percentage that needs to be reached within humanity that believes that there is life out there for there to be full disclosure. Disclosure is already happening on an individual level. I think we'll get full disclosure in the next like maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't think we're very far from that. There is this
Awesome.
Project Bluebeam thing that people say that they're going to make like a fake alien invasion to
Mm.
scare people. I don't know. I don't really care because like I speak to them, like I'll know if it's real or not real. So people like us who are actually tuned in and are aware and are kind of like on it with what's going on, like we're not going to be fooled. Like people weren't fooled when there was the pandemic sort of thing. Like some were and some weren't, and then some like really woke up after that, like, oh wow, okay, like that was necessary because it shifted and changed. So I don't think there's going to be some big solar flash where the power is going to go out and there's going to be an apocalyptic timeline. I think a lot of those are like fear and division programs that get put within the collective. And I think a lot of energy workers aren't really fully present and embodied. And so they actually have distortion coming through within their information. So they are obviously acting from a good space, but they are promoting division, separation, anything that promotes chaos, division, and separation. And without spiritually bypassing, obviously, things that are happening because Mother God needs to clear her karma. So Earth needs to clear her own karma. But Yeah, I think it's maybe not going to be gentle, but I don't feel like we need to worry about that right now. That's how I see it, sort of thing.
And then
Okay.
lastly, from my side, how do people, I feel that there's a lot of us that are awakened. We understand what's going on in the world. We understand what's coming. We're aware of these things. How do people come out of that? Because I speak to so many people, and it's just stupid. Our conversations turn into quite in-depth, and I realize that a lot of people are not even there yet. They're still so far back. How do we assist people to easily, and I'm not saying like forcibly, because you can never force anybody, but how would we, and I know about doing these type of podcasts and it's getting out and people are kind of listening to it, I understand that, but how do we assist personally? How do we assist people to let them see, listen, there's something else that you're not seeing. You must awaken from where you must awaken from your slumber.
Yeah, I think like people don't necessarily need to have the cognitive awareness and understanding of what the fifth dimensional density is to be living in it. Like someone can be, I don't know, an architect and in a good space and operating from a space of love and navigating their life and never even care about the existence of aliens, but still he's operating from fifth dimensional density frequency. So they don't necessarily need to know and understand. What I like to always say is just be a kind, nice human. Like if that's what you're operating from and that's who you are, and it doesn't take a genius to kind of like have a moral compass, your trauma that you inherited was not your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal and move through it and be like a nice human and a nice person. And that's really all you need to do. Because a lot of times people are like, oh my God, am I not gonna like come in the 5D and I'm gonna be left behind and what? No. No, like it's no one's going anywhere. We're just gonna start living from a more service to others space. Let's put it that way. So I think, yeah, just leading by example would be a good way. As you said, you can never force anyone to understand or learn or do anything. But what I've learned in my experience is that if someone is meant to be around me, they will be allowed in my field. If not, then no. And a lot of the time when you start leading by example, you mirror things back to people because we're all mirrors of each other. And if they can't face it or handle it, they're actually not going to be able to be in your space. But all you can do is really just like shine your light and be like, okay, this is me, this is my light. Like I'm going to lead by example.
Awesome.
Okay. Sorry, just one last question because I know you got to go now. Yeah,
Okay. I'll do a bit of light language if you guys want me to. I can channel a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, I will just skip my question and go straight there because then.
No, you can ask. It's fine. You can ask your question.
Okay. Okay. So I was speaking to someone else about the moving into the fifth dimension, and he was measuring it with a pendulum, like dowsing, and he was seeing like the frequency of how we're all lifting or whatever. It was very interesting, and he had like a scientific way of measuring it. And then I said to him, well, what happens to the people that are in the third dimension? They're just going to be left behind, and people that go into the fifth dimension, do they disappear? Do they? He said, no, we all stay here, but because the water, he made an analogy like it was like water rising, and we like ships on the surface, and we just are naturally just tuning into the fifth dimension anyway. But the people that are going to be stuck on the third dimension with their fear vibrations or whatever, it's like they've got an anchor there, and then the water is pushing, and now the ship can't rise, but then it would manifest in like a disease or like or something hectic that'll happen in your life, like like a loss of a loved one or like a car accident, or you get sick or something, and then because you go through this trauma, it like boosts you straight into because like no one can be left behind, but you've got to learn the lesson or whatever to get to the next stage or whatever. What do you think of a statement like this?
Yeah, no, I think it makes total sense, and it is in alignment with what I've seen as well, is that the universe will push you in the direction that you're supposed to go. Like you can only block to a certain point, and sometimes it'll push you to the point where if you've gone too far, then you actually need to leave this incarnation and come back. because there's no way for you to, and that could be like an illness or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I saw in people around me, like you'll see like something happens and then they get sick, and then all of a sudden like realizations start happening, and then they start living better or more to the fullest or in a better alignment. So that's definitely something that happens and makes sense. Yeah, you obviously don't want to get to that. You want to be in a space where you're listening. Every physical illness comes from an energetic imbalance. If you are clearing yourself already energetically, you don't have to be sick. Like I haven't been sick in years. My child's never sick. Like we don't get sick. Like, okay, maybe like I can't even remember the last time I had a cold. Okay, she's like 5, so she'll sometimes, get like a little bit of a cough, but she's like never taken an antibiotic. She's never had like pneumonia or whatever. Like I was always sick at her age and coughing and this and that. But because I move through energy and I clear every single day, nothing gets stuck. So if it doesn't get stuck, then my body won't get sick. It's kind of like the physical is the last resort of the universe to warn you. Like it'll start warning you before that from an energetic perspective. So I don't know if you guys can hear the noise. Can you hear the noise from my back? The rain is like, it's like one of the
Wow,
most
no, I can't hear a
intense,
thing.
like rain showers, yeah, that have been coming through. Like it's
Oh wow,
almost
I can't hear a thing.
it's yeah,
I can't hear anything.
really.
Wow.
Yeah, so obviously it's the laptop's not picking it up.
You
But
say you clear your energetic space, because even just talking to you now, I've noticed twice where you've done something with your hands, like you're clearing
yeah.
something while we're talking, and I'm thinking, what is it like? What's happening there? Like, what is
It's
it?
just collective energy that it might be something from you guys. It might be something that's just passing that needs to come through. I'll generally clear, it'll yawn. So I'll clear through my throat chakra. Sometimes I'll burp, cough,
Okay,
gag. Yeah, sometimes I'll clear through the solar plexus, but it just comes up and it comes up to be like I'm consistently clearing. So yeah.
okay. Because I was like watching and I was like, gee, I hope me or Lee haven't like sent anything negative. Then are you like,
No.
No, even if it's your stuff,
now
I
you
can
clean it
do
up
that.
quickly.
I'll do it. And remember, I'm in between clients, so I've been clearing the whole day anyway.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
Okay, cool. So
light language. Let's do it.
talk some
Okay,
light.
awesome. So you guys can just close your eyes and start
Brilliant.
anchoring into your body. As you find your comfortable breathing rhythm, with every inhale, you breathe in light. And with every exhale, you release all that doesn't serve you anymore. As you relax body, system, and energy field, you stay in a space of openness and oneness. As we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. We call on our higher selves as spirit guides. Anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good, you're welcome in the space. Remember to listen with your heart, surrender, and allow. Triatrikorokot krat kre utkia ishin horaya siratakra. Opening, 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 opening systems, opening, 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 opening. Rat kruaya shiratara. Shikrokut kruaishinaya tre at krea sirokut kraishinaya. Triatariat kre ut kraya sit kraya tri ishit kraishinaya. Shikrokorot re. Being releasing, 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 opening, releasing, opening, releasing, releasing, opening, 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 letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, deporting, detangling, removing, 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 expanding, 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 expanding into more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 rat kroai shiara trea shira korokot krai shinataka. Kurat kretkana ishiratara. Tiana re at krek rasit rasit kuk ratsit kruk ra ishinayat ra kore niat kuru na riat kre na nishir Nahashira tarakrik kurukura ishiratra. Tirokurukuto, grounding, grounding, anchoring, grounding, anchoring, 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 aligning, aligning, attuning systems, clearing, releasing, 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 clearing peripheral, releasing, 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 expanding, expanding into more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 grounding, attuning, anchoring, grounding, attuning, anchoring, anchoring, balancing, balancing, balancing systems, balancing, riat kre utkorokot koishenayatra, triaterakat kre utkroaishika, siet korokochkieratra, shukrokoraya sierat reat kre ukoraisia, shukrokoraishenayat reat korokonaisherayatra, shukrokot krakre at kre korokot kra ishenayatra, tre korokot krat kraya shirata kre et kiero korokot kraisinata, shukrokuat kre aishenayatra, tre korokumraisherayatra, shukrokur na niat kurkua ishenatra, shukrokut kraisherata, clean, releasing, 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 anchoring, anchoring. Anchoring, 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 expanding, 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 more light, divine rays, anchoring, 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 attuning, attuning, activating, 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 grounding, 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 grounding. Grounding, grounding, anchoring, 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 closing, sealing, 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 closing, sealing, sealing, closing, sealing, 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 closing, 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 sealing, 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 closing, sealing, closing, 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 sealing, 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 closing. Shukurukut kraishinayatra, tre ukurukut kraishyatra, triatre kurukut kraishinayatra, tre atkiero kurukut kraishyatra, shukurukut kraishinayatra, shukurukuro ishinayatra, tre tre aishinayatra. You can slowly start coming back to the body and ground back into the physical vessel. Maybe moving your fingers or your toes, or you can choose to stay in process and carry on this feeling. If not, whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, how are you guys feeling?
Feel so relaxed. Wow.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you for that. Much
Yeah.
appreciated, man.
Pleasure. So the system will be processing and clearing and releasing for a few days, even for everyone who's listening. After this, you might feel like a little bit lightheaded, a little bit dizzy, like you want to eat more, sleep more, rest, like you don't want to be around people. Just like give it a little bit of time and, trust and surrender. 3 weeks for full integration of everything.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Althea.
Yeah, Althea,
Well,
thanks, man.
absolute
We're exactly on
pleasure
1
having
hour.
you here.
Boom.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And also, where can people get a hold of you?
Yes, so you can find me on my website, altelocrizia.com. I actually, if any of the listeners are in America, I am going to be doing a public appearance in February at the Conscious Life Expo, and I'm running an ascension and light language training in Los Angeles in February next year. So if people want to do in-person work, that's where they're going to find me. I do have a studio in Cape Town as well. So if you are in South Africa, then you can come and see me in person in Cape Town. So yeah, my website, my Instagram, LIGHTCODES by ALA, or my YouTube, Altea Lucrezia. And yeah, you can click, if you get on my website, there is like a space for questions and things like that. I run 6-week and 6-month programs online for one-on-ones, and then I'll do like once-off light language activations, 13 chakra attunements, Akashic clearings. I've got maybe like 30 different workshops on my website on like manifestation, clearing psychic attacks. I run a masterclass for channeling. The next one will be in October. I only take 10 people for that. It is a live masterclass. It is about 3 hours. I teach you everything that I know on opening up the channel, accessing the Akashic records, assisted and unassisted channeling, how to open the clairs, channeling between the different dimensional densities. So if you want to learn how to channel, remember guys, anyone can do what I do. I'm not special. I've just practiced it for long, so I'm better at it than your standard person, but anyone can be psychic. Anyone can open their clairs. Anyone can have visions and understand these things. It's just, a matter of practice.
What's the cost of that course, of the the psychic course?
Which one?
The one that you just mentioned now, the last one.
The masterclass.
Yeah.
The masterclass is $222 and it's about 3 hours, and you have access to the recording as well if you choose to participate. And there's also Q&A time in it. And I will do a full system light language clearing and activation within the class too. So you get quite a lot for the amount.
That's a good price. That's a great price. Jeez.
Mm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Well, happy to see you there.
Yeah, thank you for your time, man. I know you've got to head off, but much appreciated again as always, and really an honor having you on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Amazing pleasure. I'm so glad it worked out, and then maybe we can do another one next year. Okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Nice.
Okay, awesome. Take care. I'll see
you
soon.
You too.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, man.
Okay, cool, man.
Awesome. Exactly 1 hour. Boom. Well, close enough.
Yeah.
No,
always a pleasure. That's it's great what she's doing. Really
very knowledgeable as well. So there's never a question that you can throw at her that she won't know. It's like she'll answer it.
Yeah.
It's like an encyclopedia of knowledge there, which is actually very cool. So yeah, for those guys that are interested, I think half of our listeners are from America. So yeah, try and follow her and try and see what she's doing, when she's coming through to America, and maybe join a class or two. That'd be nice for her. And but yeah, otherwise, guys and girls, thank you very much for tonight. And William, thank you for your time as well. And hope you guys enjoyed that one, and we'll chat to you next week. Thanks, Will.
Cool, man. Thanks, dude. Cheers, dude. Bye, guys.